Leonardo Dicaprio is just another Hollywood Illuminati Satanist tool. He is an American idol. He is idolized by many Americans, not just Americans, but he's idolized by people all around the planet. And that is exactly what this sick system in Hollywood does. It creates idols for the public. Idols of worship. This is why the system uses these celebrities constantly to put forth their own agenda, to put forth these occult ideas, to put forth these New World Order ideas.
Guests, I'm honored to be here today. I stand before you not as an expert.
The Illuminati Zionist agenda, if you will. Now, all of this was made much more clear to me after watching the new movie, The Revenant. The Revenant stars Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's actually based on true events. It's set in 1823 Montana and also South Dakota. And again, it was inspired by the experiences of a real person. It was a frontiersman and a fur trapper whose name was Hugh Glass. So as stated, this is based on a true story. It's a very simple story. It's about a man's revenge, about a man's journey through 2 states to find the man that murdered his son, and to find the man that left him for dead, and to exact some form of revenge. So imagine my surprise when about halfway through the film, they started adding in a few extra elements. And these elements they added in had nothing to do with the actual movie. It didn't push forth the story any further. It didn't give you any more insight into the characters. It was just extra stuff that seemed added in. If you're new to my channel, please check out some of my videos and you'll see that I cover a lot of films and TV shows and media in general in the same way I'm about to cover this film. This New World Order agenda, this beast system agenda, is really beginning to manifest itself more and more. The term is revelation of the method. We're seeing the system itself expose itself. And when it does this, when the system exposes its own agenda, it's always doing so with a bit of a slant, trying to make you, the general public, agree with this agenda, to see that it's not so bad, to come on board, to accept it. This is predictive programming. At the same time, there's people like myself, and there's a lot of us who see this agenda, who see this symbolism, we understand what it means, and we're trying to explain it in our way. And we try to show you how the system is using this agenda to control your minds, control your thoughts, and ultimately to prepare you to join in and be a part of it once it's here. So without further ado, let's jump into it, and I'm going to show you what I found. So I guess this would be kind of a spoiler alert before I show you a few things if you're interested in seeing this film. Most of the stuff I'm going to talk about here, though, they showed you in the commercials anyway. So it started about a quarter of the way through the film. And this right here is the scene where it began, but Leonardo DiCaprio's character has been injured. This is one of the bad guys here. It's kind of looking after him. Now it's hard for me to tell what the bad guy, we'll call him, was actually saying to Leo in this moment, but he does talk about Jesus a little bit. He talks about the God of reality, but he's mumbling it the whole time, and as he is, he's trying to kill Leonardo DiCaprio. He tries to cover up his mouth and suffocate him. That's around the same time that he also kills DiCaprio's son. And DiCaprio's still alive, he sees it, but he's so incapacitated he can't get up, he can't move. There's nothing he can do about it. So that's the setup. So shortly after that scene, you find out that the bad guy had built kind of a shallow grave. He pulls DiCaprio's character into the grave, throws him in, throws a bunch of dirt on top of him, and then that's when this part right here happens. And this is when I knew we were looking at some form of ritual. Now again, I cover this a lot in a lot of my videos. I've covered this subject quite a bit. Other people do as well. I'm telling you this if you're new to it, that this is very real, and this is something they do in a lot of our media. They'll actually put these rituals on film in the movie. Again, part of it is the revelation of the method. It's getting the public and society in general, people of the planet, used to this symbolism, used to these ideas on a very cerebral and subliminal level. Another part of this actual ritual practice in films and TV shows. And on another level, this is just a wink and a nod to all those people in the system who've taken the oath or signed the contract. You know, they all know what this stuff means. At the same time, they realize that millions upon millions of other people in the world have no clue. So it makes you feel elite, special. You're part of a secret society. You're part of secret knowledge. They've been illuminated. So moving on, now we have Dicaprio in a shallow grave. Now the person here that's holding this canteen, it's a young guy. He's not a bad guy. He's just kind of along for the ride and he's trying to help out. But for no reason whatsoever, at one point before you've seen this canteen, they showed the kid with a rock and he's just making a spiral. That's all he's doing, is just creating a spiral on that canteen. There's no explanation, there's no reason. They just kind of glance by it with the camera, but they do make sure that you see it. So several minutes later, now we're at this moment right here where Dicaprio is in a shallow grave, and here comes the kid with this canteen that has a spiral on it, and check out what he does with it. He then places it on Dicaprio's chest in the shallow grave and walks away. So here's Dicaprio in a shallow grave with this canteen on his chest that has a spiral. Okay, so in the movie, a little bit of time goes on. You see there's other characters that have moved on, and now Dicaprio is still in this shallow grave. And you can see right here that his hand starts coming out of the dirt right next to that spiral. It's as if it was a rebirth, right? And I'm going to cover more of that in just a moment. And from there we see him crawl out of the grave. And now he's bent on revenge. The rest of the movie is him tracking down the people that did this to him and his son to exact some form of revenge. So the whole sequence felt very much like a ritual to me. And after the sequence, you don't see that spiral ever again. You don't see the canteen. There's no reason for it. It never pops back up. The camera doesn't focus on it. I really feel that it was all meant entirely just for this scene, for this ritual. So now I talk about symbols quite a bit here on the channel. And to really understand the language of symbols, we have to go back through the history of them, because symbols can have multiple meanings. This is why when we find symbols in films or really in anything, we need confirmations. We need to understand what it is that it's really trying to tell us. And I'm going to show you a few more things in the film in just a second. I kind of wanted to talk about the spirals just for a moment. But the spirals keep turning up in all kinds of ways, especially in crop circles. See a lot of spirals turning up in crop circles all around the world. Now when we go further back with the spirals, we find a lot of ancient petroglyphs. The spiral petroglyph is found in every ancient culture throughout the world. The spiral is the oldest symbol known to be used in spiritual practices and reflects the universal pattern of growth and evolution. The spiral can also represent the goddess, the womb, fertility, and life force energy. And this right here is from the TV series True Detective. It's from season 1. I'll be doing a bigger video in the future, probably on True Detective, at least on season 1, because it was all about so-called Illuminati, or about very wealthy Satanists in a small community. There's tons of occult symbolism and ideals throughout this entire series, but right here they find somebody who was sacrificed in a ritual and they have the spiral on their back. And then later they find this spiral wreath on a tree. So again, the spiral pattern shows up again, confirming all of the occult knowledge coming out in True Detective Season 1. So in some respects, I could see how the spiral was used in this film as kind of a rebirthing, right? But I also think there's more going on in this particular case with the spiral. There's also the spiral of Freemasonry. And I could certainly see this playing a part as well with the spiral in this particular ritual in this film. Here's another example of the spiral I wanted to show you. This is from the all-seeing eye on the back of your dollar bills. But if you close in on the all-seeing eye itself, you can see that surrounding the pupil, once again, is a spiral. Right? So this indicates that portal between the dimensions. Also the intention behind the all-seeing eye, the intention it has on us. It's a portal. I believe it also shows that that's the way that evil enters this dimension. And of course, speaking of portals, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. Now this right here is the rest of the story. Here's some of the other imagery I wanted to show you. Now if I'd watched this whole film and all I'd seen was just that spiral part and Dicaprio in the grave, I could have accepted it was just some form of a rebirthing type ritual. And that's it. Maybe some kind of creative embellishments from the writer or the director, or whatever. But as I said, when we're trying to study the language of symbolism, we look for confirmations. So then just a little later on in the movie, I got my confirmations. We had more of this ritualistic imagery show up, and again, it had nothing to do with the movie. It didn't drive the story any further. It didn't explain any characters any deeper. It was just some imagery that Dicaprio was seeing in a dream. We see something falling from the sky. And as it continues to fall towards the earth, we have our pyramids. And now this part was pretty crazy. It might be kind of hard to see, but just to the left of that meteor, right, that's falling from the sky, whatever it is, but just to the left you can see a black rock right there in the sky. That just kind of shows up from out of nowhere, and then it plunges into the water below. And you can see right there where that black stone that was falling hits the water, but we still see the meteor above coming down between the two pyramids. And more confirmation, here we have a pyramid of skulls, right, and you have the sun right there on the side. And you got Dicaprio checking it out. So here's your pyramid with the sun, more of that so-called Illuminati symbolism, or what I like to call the beast system symbolism. And that's it. That's the symbolism that's in the film, but you can see where it all ties in together. Or maybe you don't. If you're not familiar with this symbolism or the story that they're telling right here, this is a story that's been told to us time and time again in all forms of media. That something is coming. The black rock could very well be the millstone cast to the earth from the Bible. The fire falling from the heavens coming down to the earth could easily be a representation of Satan. And that's the story right there. The spirals, the portals, the rebirthing, the devil being cast to the earth. The devil rising from his grave. Satan only having a short amount of time to exact his revenge on humanity, or on God himself. Any celebrity that's on Leonardo DiCaprio's level is a part of it. They're part of that system. They've done the rituals. They know about the mystery teachings. And they have to represent by flashing their symbols. This is why we'll find all these people flashing their symbols. But what's more incriminating really is who they hang out with. We have to remember that birds of a feather flock together, right? Here he is hanging out with Al Gore. The part that really nailed it for me with DiCaprio was when I found out that he's an ambassador for the United Nations for climate change. I think this picture right here says it best. So he's a tool. As I said, he's a tool. He's being used by these globalists. But people idolize him. People have their idols. They worship a lot of these people they see on the big screens, these giants in front of their eyes. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. Stay aware out there, take care, and I'll talk to you real soon.
What?